The Steve Dangle Podcast. Powered by Sports Interaction. Wanna bet?
The Steve Dangle Podcast with your hosts, Steve Dangle, Adam Wilde, and Jesse Blake.
Wow. You've been to a party, but you've never been to a party like Vegas's Stanley Cup party.
That
ever
is the drunkest I've ever seen NHL players at a sanctioned event.
I don't know if I've ever seen anybody that drunk. Like, that was crazy.
Oh, I wouldn't go that far.
Oh, I've seen you pretty drunk. I've never seen Jesse that drunk. I've seen you a little bit lit up, but not
I
I have.
Not like
I know when you've seen me very drunk. I was at your bachelor party.
Adam was already asleep.
Yeah.
Oh,
I fall asleep first, and that's when our friend pissed in the kitchen.
Yes.
It took a bit to get Adam to his bachelor party because he was asleep.
Adam had to be coaxed out of bed
I was so sick.
at his bachelor party.
was so
And
sick.
I don't give a shit.
Yeah, I
Sick
know.
Or just like
I was like,
tired.
okay, fine, let's go. And I don't do any fun drugs, so it didn't. A lot of people would be like, let's do that, and then we'll party, and who cares? But I don't do any of those.
Imagine if one of us had been like, do cocaine.
nose beers. Let's go.
Nose.
Bing, bing.
Oh, nose.
Did that make us about what we're about to talk about?
Well,
Hockey
listen,
players.
And I just elbow dropped Adam many times
Yes.
until he got out of bed because he decided he didn't want to do that.
Oh, we'd be right in line with the hockey players.
It was the right call. Now, listen, we got to talk about
start,
this.
guys.
William Karlsson's speech made the weekend. Now, most of the feeds that I found were on like the TV feeds, like people were just reposting the local news or whatever. So we can't run those. But Jesse Granger somehow has a video from down there, and he got a good chunk of the best parts of the William Karlsson speech. So Jesse's going to bring that up. And again, it's not from your local news station, so don't copyright strike us, for God's sakes. Here we go.
Yeah.
Yelling at the copyright Autobot doesn't help.
It does. Thank you.
In fact, it probably triggers it.
It probably hears its name. And it's like,
Oh.
all right, I need to activate.
Play
Uncle
it.
Fester or whatever. You rang.
You called me up.
Here, A1. I know you have been here day fucking one.
This is the first time I've heard William Karlsson's voice.
You guys are so amazing. We played Arizona on the first game, and we beat the shit out of them.
He almost looks naked with those shorts.
He is naked.
No points. But that's okay. Because on year one, I was fucking great.
Someone tries to take the mic off him.
No, he's like, no, this is my time.
And we've been up and down on this journey.
Oh my! He has beer all over his shorts.
I hope it's beer.
Okay, so Jesse, I just forwarded you another one. William Karlsson gave another speech that nobody's talking about. It was on top of a bus on the parade ride over to the thing. I just thought maybe you should hear it because he is having a night.
Who's this from?
This is from Matt or Pitt_Matt2 on Twitter. He's a Vegas fan, Pittsburgh fan, but it's up on Dave Ord's 1982 TikTok account. That's Dave Ord.
Concise.
Well-known guy.
Good.
We're crediting the right people.
Yeah.
Dave.
Thanks, Dave. Here we go.
Thank you.
Deserves Jonathan Smythe the song. He won the Conn Smythe. Yeah, I know. And for those who doesn't know, that means most valuable effing player in the playoffs. It's the man of respect he deserves.
He still had his shirt at this point.
Yes.
William Karlsson.
Yeah, which, I mean, like, listen, I just thought it was kind of cool to turn back the clocks when he had his shirt on and his pants were dry.
Yeah.
I think that's... Yeah. But it did remind me of this, and I don't know if you guys remember the most cringe Stanley Cup parade moment that I've ever seen. And again, this is from a guy who deserved it. If you win the cup, you can be as cringe as you want. Okay, so I'm not dissing him. But the most cringe moment I can remember, Jesse, I have the video.
I don't want to look because I don't want to spoil it.
Do you have any guesses?
I can't think of any real cringe.
Getting on the mic and just, whoa.
I can only think of like Marchand was like when he would drunkenly run black and yellow, black and yellow. Is that it?
Yellow, black and yellow, black and yellow. Yeah, pass it. What up? Black and yellow, black and yellow. Yeah. Everything 2011, baby. Do it big.
Thank you, Boston.
Thank you.
That was him and Bergeron.
That song is for Pittsburgh.
Yeah. The song is for Pittsburgh. It's for the Steelers.
Wiz Khalifa made a song for Pittsburgh. You can't just steal it.
Yeah, they can.
They did all playoffs that year. That was the 2011 Cup run.
How do you not
my
just
God.
blast Shipping Up to Boston? Or was that song maybe not out yet?
Yeah, no, that was
When did The Departed come out?
that was out.
Yeah.
That was
I
out.
don't
Now, the other thing I want to send you, because again, there's so much happening here, and this is according the Bleacher Report Open Ice had this one. Aiden Hill got on the mic at a club in Vegas from the DJ booth and started rapping as well. And I thought you might want to hear that.
I saw of it. I intentionally didn't
You
click
must
on it.
listen.
So thank you for
I'm not
letting
even
me
going to tell you the song. You'll know the
making
song.
me sit through it. No, I know the song.
Okay, here we go.
Wait, you think I don't know the word?
Not even.
This whole show is getting taken.
No, there's nothing wrong with that. That's a mix. That's a remix. Doesn't even
He's
sound
not
like
even getting it right.
Yeah, no, he's not. He's not. And the last one is Zach Whitecloud running down the strip in his bare feet with the Stanley Cup. And I thought you should see this.
In Vegas?
In Vegas, on the street.
Bro, you're going to burn your feet off.
I know.
Oh
It's
my
at
God.
night. It's at night. So it's a little bit cooler. But I just wanted you to see. Because, it reminded me a little bit of, I love seeing NHL players in their normal clothes. But here he is.
Where are your
No sound.
No sound on this video. So he's walking around.
Where are your shoes, sir?
Yeah, and then he runs. There he is. There he's running. I dropped the
he
sandal.
lost the flip-flop.
Dropped the flip. Oh, we got to go back and get it. Oh, screw it. Just take the other one off if I'm going to run. Come on.
Hey!
Let's go.
So, as you can imagine, if you're going to have a party, you want to have it in Vegas. If you want to win a Stanley Cup, man, forget everything that we ever said about players not wanting to go to Vegas. Every star player in the league should want to go to Vegas. Well, because it was sort of like, if they keep lying to people flat out, it's a little bit kind of shitty, right? Because they kept moving on from guys.
Oh.
But
I think they could be convinced.
I'm sure that they could be lied to for that. I would take a live. I would take a couple lies.
Well,
I'd be like, you know what? I understand that lie. I get it.
Listen, a few players were treated poorly.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's no denying that. But I mean, they treated this year's team like gold.
Yes.
And continue to, and they tried.
They're probably still drunk this morning.
Wouldn't you be?
Oh, yeah.
I would. Oh my God. Yeah, hair of the dog. I'd be wearing the wig of the dog. Just have a whole dog wig on top of my head.
You just put a suit on.
Yeah,
The
dog suit.
dog. Okay.
Do you guys remember 2015, the narrative when they're working towards getting the expansion team and everybody's talking about, okay, how is this going to work as a market? It's not one of the biggest markets in the States. It's near the bottom half in terms of pro sports teams. And everybody thought this team's just going to be filling their stadium with a bunch of Canadians who are down in Vegas coming to see their team. Yeah. It's going to be people who are on the strip. All the casinos are going to own the tickets and they're going to give them out to clientele as free tickets and that sort of stuff. And nobody thought they could build a home market amongst home fans. You know, nobody thought the residents of Vegas would care about this team. And from day one, they all rallied behind this team, and the entire thing has been homegrown. Yeah, it's been incredible to see.
I think the fans there were really excited to have something else. Like, we all know what Vegas is known for, right? They were happy to have something else.
That was local. That was theirs.
Yeah.
It was local, theirs. You could bring your kids to.
I remember when we first talked about the potential of expansion in Vegas, and it was like the first season we ever did this show, which is 10 years ago now. And one of the things that kept getting raised as a concern on the particular radio show I was listening to that afternoon that, I was scribbling down prep from, like, oh, that's an interesting topic, was, you put a sports team in Vegas. How do you stop the players from gambling? That was the thing. Like, that was why leagues stayed out of Vegas for a long time, because Vegas has always had the money. They've always had the money. But the thing was always like, well, if they go there, then they're just going to gamble. And, I'm sure people gamble, but I don't think that I think the whole thing was like the Pete Rose thing. They use that as like your sort of your straw man. Like, well, if they go there, they're all going to be a bunch of Pete Roses and bet on their own games. And that was literally, I think, one of the main arguments that kept it out of Vegas forever, because there's so much money there. There's no
so
reason
many-
you shouldn't have every sport there.
There's so much stuff to bet on. You don't have to bet on your own game.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
You got to tell NFL players that they've been
Yeah.
getting caught red-handed left and right. One thing with the Golden Knights too is there was a big thing for them, big advantage for them being the first team in there. Mm-hmm. They got to be the first pro sports team ever in Vegas, and you get that head start. And then they bring in the Aces, and then they bring in the Raiders.
So the Aces were after.
Yeah,
That's
Aces,
what I was trying to look up.
The Aces moved over to Las Vegas in 2018. So the Golden Knights had this advantage. They're the first ever pro sports team in this city.
Huge advantage being first.
Yeah.
Look at that. We always talk about how the NHL is a follower league. They were first on Vegas. You know what? Hats off to the league.
And in, I don't know, 5-ish years, they're going to have all four.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they're going to get the Oakland A's. They're going
that
over
wild?
in 2 years. And they already got the hockey team. The NBA is looking to expand there. And then they already have the Raiders. So the NHL, kudos to them for identifying that market and being able to take that risk to go over there and see how much of a success it is.
Probably their greatest success story in terms of business-wise, the greatest success story in the NHL in the last decade.
There's more reasons to go to Vegas.
It has eclipsed the Coyotes in terms of its goodness versus bad.
You could say Gary Bettman's best achievement is expansion.
Oh, yeah.
The teams and the markets he's gone to, that's been his greatest success.
Well, I'll give him full credit for that, because the thing is that when he took over the NHL, the prevailing thought was, this is the most amount of teams you can have. I think there was 22. And he was like, well, no. Really? And they were like, well, no, there's not enough. Like, if you keep, and I've seen this argument again and again and again, which is so stupid, and it's if you keep expanding the league, the player quality will be watered down.
It dilutes the
player
player.
And here's the problem, is that when they did expand the league, it sort of set that up, because you remember the Ottawa Senators when they came in, the San Jose Sharks when they came under draconian rules in terms of how they could collect players, and they had no farm system, and they had no coaching staff and no budget. And then you had a bit of an upgrade around like the turn of the millennium when you had Columbus, Minnesota, Atlanta, and Nashville come in. But even then, you're getting best player on your roster is at best a third line center.
Yeah, someone real smart. I'm glad they brought in someone real smart. Said, hey, what if we don't shovel shit down the throats of a new fan
and
base
make them
for a solid
decade?
Decade.
Well, how long was it before any of those teams made the playoffs? Like Atlanta almost never did. I think they made it once.
One time.
Florida, I want to say, was 3 years, and that was, everyone was like, holy shit.
Yeah.
The Florida Panthers. How did they do it?
Yeah, and then they didn't do anything for 20 years.
Yeah, no, they made the final in 96, and then
And then it was just the Scott Mellenby show, baby.
Maybe.
And then I think, you look at the foursome that came in, the Columbus, Atlanta, Minnesota, and Nashville, and I think Minnesota would be the quickest to make the playoffs, but it wasn't pleasant.
Nashville might have. Minnesota's the only one who made it any sort of distance, and then only
Nashville.
one of them's been to a final.
Yeah, even now.
But Nashville's been such a successful market.
Oh, it's been incredible
for hockey.
But there was a time where it wasn't.
Right.
Right.
The thing that he got wrong in the whole situation was not setting these teams up for success. He put the teams in the right market. I think we can all agree with that. Like, there's 32 pretty good markets right now. Even Arizona, they can't figure out their stadium, but it's a great hockey market.
Yeah.
Which is why they won't let them leave.
Exactly.
Thomas Strand, sometimes you just need something tweaked a certain way, and I'm like, oh fuck, I get it. Like the second you take the Coyotes out of Arizona, you're going to be looking for ways to put them back in Arizona.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, all right, let's figure this out. But you need a damn building.
That's why it's like if San Diego gets the team, like if Arizona moves to San Diego, the next expansion franchise would just be Arizona again.
They just need to put it in Scottsdale or Phoenix, I think. It's got to be
they just need to fix
which
it.
is
But
right next to each other.
The point is, like, they got 32 great franchises right now. It's just when they get into the league, the thing Gary didn't realize is that you need to set them up for success,
Right.
so that the new markets have a good team to root for. And finally, how many years into his run? 84 years he's been running the NHL now.
Something like that,
108 years old. He finally figured it out with Vegas
And Seattle.
Make it easy. And then Seattle got similar, got
in the
the exact
playoffs.
same rules as Vegas did. And look how successful these franchises are.
Yep.
Seattle is already amongst the top 10 money generating teams in the NHL.
That's incredible. That is spectacular.
Yeah.
And you know what they had too? The thing that made Vegas and Seattle spectacular is they didn't earlier on, I think in the NHL's life, they didn't really have, and Gary has had some terrible, I wouldn't call it luck. I think he's done terrible vetting with certain owners. And in the last 10 years or so, the business side of the NHL has solidified to the point where, and we're going to talk about this a little bit later, franchise values have 10x in the last 10 years. And we could see that specifically with the Tampa Bay Lightning, who were purchased for like close to $100 million 10 years ago. And now they're worth $1.14 billion. I think the interesting part is that when they were trying to bring these teams in, now Coyotes are a different one because they were not an expansion, they were a removed franchise, right? That franchise existed. But a lot of these guys were like, okay, well, let's get the franchise off the ground and then we'll build an arena later. And they just never did. Like the Thrashers are a perfect example of a team that, you know, you're sort of piecing these arenas together. I think Nashville didn't start in their current arena.
Wasn't that kind of an older way of doing it? Like,
Yes.
weren't the Blue Jays like that?
Yep.
Yeah, they
That
were.
exhibition stadium for all
And
those
the
teams.
Raptors.
It was sort of
Actually,
like, well, here you go.
Raptors played in Skydo.
Here's your team. Good fucking luck.
Yeah.
That's literally what it was. And now you've got groups like the Oakview group who are behind the scenes working with Gary and going, okay, we have a viable city. We must build the arena so that the fan experience is such that they'll want to come back and respend with us.
Yeah, from day one, you need to be set up to go and run for the next 20 years. And Steve, you nailed it. That was the 90s way of building pro sports teams across all the major sports.
And a bunch of them tanked.
Yeah. You go in this old ass building that probably houses a different pro sports team, and then you figure out your stadium along the way.
And as long as we're talking about expansion teams that took a long time to get off the ground, oof, the Raptors.
Yeah.
Oof, the Raptors.
How do you play in a fucking baseball stadium?
They played in a baseball stadium
'Cause they couldn't
and
put them in the
didn't
garden.
win shit
No.
forever.
They were bad. They were bad for
how long-
And they built Scotiabank Arena for the Raptors, and the Leafs just happened to move in.
And how long was the Raptors not even beating Philadelphia, almost beating Philadelphia?
Oh, yeah.
How long was that like the crowning achievement of the franchise?
Yeah, that second round almost victory was
Vince Carter missed
That was
the
it.
shot, yeah.
It
That
was
the
like a
entire
quarter
franchise.
century before their first championship.
Yeah, their biggest success was having Vince Carter win the slam dunk competition. Like, that's the franchise's biggest
So
achievement.
true and also pathetic. Oh, and a regular season win against the Bulls.
Oh yeah, the first year. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's the radical idea that wait a sec. Let's have it so that there's more teams, but we don't automatically make some of those teams shit.
Yes. And Vegas is like, look at the fan support. Look at the show that they put on. And what I love about Vegas is they've already become a leader in terms of entertainment value, in terms of like what you need to do. I look at the Leafs in arena experience, and I'm not going to lie to you. Part of the reason it's so sleepy in there, part of it's the expense of the seats. I get it. But part of it was just like, they had the same goal song for 25 years. They had, well, it's Luke's troops. Oh, now it's Loop's troops, and now it's Leafs troops. And like, you know, they even doing something like honoring service people who, you know, had served the country was just sort of like, well, you know, that's the way we've always done it. So let's just do it that way. And in the last 5 to 10 years, especially since Shanny's got there, full credit to him, that has elevated. They got the next gen games. They've got fun stuff.
There's so much more they can
absolutely.
do. You know?
Oh yeah.
Like,
more.
I've
Oh,
seen
yeah.
a game in Vegas. It's 10 times better.
So I think two things happen at once, and it gave the league a bit of a shot in the arm. The Predators went to the Stanley Cup final, And then a couple months later, Vegas makes their debut on the ice in the NHL. And everyone who covered them talked about how fun it was. And everyone sort of went, should we? Wait. Here. Get in close. You're not going to believe this. Should we have fun? Let's do it.
I don't know.
Let's fucking have fun.
No, let's just play some classic rock in between plays.
No.
Here's Thunderstruck again this game.
Let's do it. No, Wes McCauley doing the fighting. That's the funniest goddamn thing I've ever seen.
And a top 10 list in between the periods. And maybe some Timbits hockey, which I do like. I love the Timbits hockey.
Timbits hockey's
My
best.
boys go to play in the big league.
Yeah.
I want to see Everly and Leo and Timbits hockey.
Oh, hell yeah. Although Everly's going to take a little bit of time. Leo's already onto it, whereas like Ev's afraid of it.
You said Everly's a girly girl.
She's a girl's
In the
girl in that
traditional
sense.
sense of the term.
Yeah, and I know that's like out of fad to say that, but like I can't help what she likes. She loves to swim, but she likes rainbows and unicorns and things like that. And I'm like, how about hockey? And she's like, how about Frozen? And I'm like, okay, we're on the same. There's ice involved. I'm in. So we're working on it.
Leo's going to pitch for the Blue Jays.
There you go. Good. I love that.
His national sport is whipping shit across the room and everywhere. Just and he just paints it.
Those finals in Nashville, we were down there. We saw a game when they had the Stanley Cup final. Like that changed things. Great. The way they had a college football atmosphere to their games with the chants.
And tell me the Vegas guys, because that was right before, they weren't watching that.
Oh yeah,
they had to have been watching that.
Yeah,
and we got to top that. And weirdly, this year's draft is in Nashville. Next year's draft is in Vegas, and that's not an accident.
I think it's a competition.
It's not. Oh well, it's your turn, and now it's your turn. No, like it's a party.
Well, hold on though.
What?
We're going to the draft next week.
Yeah.
Nashville is a party, so that lends itself. But so is Montreal. And
yes,
everything around the draft in Montreal was really fun.
Yes.
Except for the draft.
Yes.
Like the most I can remember from the actual draft is Shane Wright falling and me talking about my feet on Twitch.
Oh, you forgot about day 2 when day 2, which is already boring, the Wi-Fi went out.
No.
not the Wi-Fi, the cellular signal for the entire region.
Yeah. For half the country.
Yeah.
Wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. It was
Rogers just went down.
They announced, I can't remember exactly what it was, but they announced over the speaker, like, hey, if you want to like call a team or make a trade or whatever, you got to use the landlines provided to you, which no one was doing.
Yep.
But all the I should have taken a closer look at like the old GMs fumbling around, like what the fuck. Probably had no idea how to use the thing. Or maybe it was the younger GMs who had no idea.
Right.
Kyle Dubas, like, what the fuck is a landline? Trying to figure it out. And I'm trying to, Jesus Christ, I have a late first rounder. I have to trade it for 2 seconds.
I remember we were walking.
He just couldn't do it.
We were walking back to our place and I had Bell. So my phone still worked.
Sure.
And somebody stopped us on the street. This girl stopped us on the street, and she's like, "Can you help me find where I'm going?" And I just Google Maps, and I had to give her directions on where she had to go meet her friends and stuff because she couldn't figure it out because she didn't have GPS.
Drew and I used the hotel Wi-Fi to book an Uber to the restaurant we were going to, and then you guys, or no, thank God you guys hadn't left.
We were outside, yeah.
Because when we were going to leave, we're like, oh, how do we? Shit. How do we
do anything?
How do we do anything? How do we get an Uber? How do we whatever? And we couldn't find a cab. So yeah, we ended up, I think, clown carring it with.
Yeah, we all squeezed in.
Oh my God.
It's not on the Montreal Canadiens. They always put on a good show. It's just the way the NHL does things. It's like, how do we put on a bad suit and put on a bad show?
One thing I've kind of noticed that since the pandemic, the NHL's been like, okay, we need to keep this momentum going and generate as much revenue as we can. So let's play the hits. And they've gone Vegas All-Star Game. They've gone Montreal draft. They're going Toronto draft.
All-Star Game.
Nashville draft. Vegas draft. Like they're just, okay, we can only go to these big spots.
Seattle's going to get one.
Seattle eventually, yeah. And I think
part of the deal.
Florida was promised pre-pandemic or something like that. So that's why they always had it.
I want to
But-
say Florida's was delayed because Montreal's was delayed or something like that.
Something like that. But I feel like they're just going to keep going to these destination places. Like, why couldn't they just keep the draft for a couple years in Vegas?
There's nothing wrong with the hits, man.
Every year,
People like 'em.
Every year, the NBA draft holds theirs in New York. That's just where it is. Why wouldn't they just keep going back to these same places?
Listen, sometimes they'll put a young player on the bench or in the press box, and they'll be like, "Just watch."
Yeah.
So hopefully the rest of the league goes, "Oh shit, okay, let me take some notes, make it fun,"
Yeah.
and then they have a shitload of fun. Hopefully, go to a different market. I would go to Dallas.
Oh yeah.
What would it be like in Dallas?
Yeah.
I'd be interested to see it.
I'd be thrilled.
I'd be thrilled to see Arizona just to see how the fuck they pull
Well,
it off.
it would be an tent outside.
No, if they do Arizona,
And I don't mean that as a bad
you
thing.
host
I think
it
that
in
could be fun.
Scottsdale. Like if you're doing the draft, like you host the draft in
It's at a golf
Scottsdale.
course.
Well,
Like,
so
come on.
a 5,000 seat arena is actually a better venue for the draft.
Well, that's why the NFL does it that way, and so does the NBA. They do it in a theater. They don't do it in a fucking hockey rink. There's like 200 or no 2,000 people max in that place.
They own the hockey rink.
Yeah, so they don't have to pay for it.
Yep.
Oh, I know. I know.
cheaper.
But like in Nashville, if you're going to do it in Nashville, wouldn't you want to do it at the Grand Ole Opry? Like one of the most
I don't know.
that's
That's a neat idea.
in terms of country music, it's the place to play.
Oh, yeah?
Right? It's like I don't even know how to describe it, but like there are very few venues that have that classic old world sort of feel to them, and the acoustics are great. It's like akin to Massey Hall in Toronto without the gigantic legacy.
If you were going to do it in Toronto, wouldn't you want to do it like on a float at Taste of the Danforth?
Yeah.
Fuck.
Yeah, no,
I would.
You could do it you could do it in Toronto at like Massey. You could do it at the Budweiser stage. Like it could be something fun, right?
No.
Budweiser stage would be sick.
The players would, the GMs would be pissed.
Why?
There's no way that's a good avenue for having a draft.
Well, you
Why
want
not?
people there. You want people there.
The last show I saw there was Slipknot, so I would watch that between picks.
That would be sick. I'd
Picks
actually
1
really love
through
that.
5.
They're big hockey fans.
Slipknot. Picks 6 through 10. Alexis on fire.
Where would the floor go?
Well, you just have it on the stage, and then here's the thing.
Where would all the GMs
Don't
and their
bring
staff
them.
sit?
Don't bring them. Have Gary. No, man.
I'm out on this idea.
So the NBA
you were
doesn't have
onto
GMs on
something
stage.
and you lost it.
The NBA does not have GMs on stage.
I don't know.
No, but they have a floor.
They make their call though,
They have like all their tables.
and the
don't
NFL
they?
makes the call. No, I think they have it behind the scenes. That's where all the tables are. That's where the draft pick sits. That's where the teams are. They're not on camera, or they're on camera, but they're not in the show because they're fucking boring.
And the way the draft lottery is decided is by feats of strength.
You have to call in your pick. I like that a lot better because then it's like, you see it goes to like, here's the Dallas Cowboys. They're going to call their next draft. Are you ready to be a Dallas Cowboy, son?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
that's
that's
how
what
it works.
they
I
make
saw the Kevin Costner movie.
Draft day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what it's called.
That is a
TikTok
weird movie.
never told me.
That's a movie that could have been really good, and it just sort of.
I don't think it could have.
Didn't land the ending. I think you could do a good movie about a draft.
Yeah, a documentary.
No, I think you could have. It's just that at the end it had to be a love story.
I want one team to lose their mind. To just lose their mind, abandon all judgment, and just document their entire draft weekend and release it completely like unvetted, unedited, all the phone calls. I just want someone to fuck up.
well, the reason that they haven't done that since is because I don't think Peter Chiarelli's reputation's ever recovered from his. Like that was too close. Every other team's like, I'll never do that.
They didn't even argue Tyler Seguin was bad.
It was just
Just
that
like, does he fit the culture?
and he's just 21 and partying,
Yep. He's just sort of
being a 21-year-old.
a guy.
Yeah.
No,
I know. It's weird.
That's weird.
It's weird. I don't think but when you go back to the way they reason through things, that kind of access, they'll never give that again. Ever. And I get why. Because you look terrible in retrospect. And the thing is with the draft is specifically is that there are guys who are like, that's our fucking guy. But then there's always a guy in the third round who scores 500 goals over the course of his career. And you're like, how come you didn't know?
No one would have criticized Chiarelli and Jim Benning and all the other guys in that video had they made a really good point. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The reason we clown on them is they made a dumbass shitty point.
They just flat out say you don't like the guy. Stop rationalizing it. We don't like Tyler Seguin. We're going to trade him.
He was late for breakfast.
Well,
Ouch!
there was that story that they had to hire a security guard to make sure he didn't leave his room to go party.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's true.
That sounds made up. That sounds like one of those Purple Monkey dishwasher, broken telephone.
You think so?
Store. Yeah.
We have to ask some people.
But they hired and he's banging on the door. Let me out!
I'd love to. Maybe we should email that guy from the Bruins and be like, hey, just a heads. The guy was like, we'll pass, thanks. But can you just tell us about Tyler Seguin? It's a decade ago. Who cares?
Is the security guard thing real or is it fake?
Steve,
Was it you or are you the security man?
I think it's true.
You think it's true?
Yeah, I've heard it from somebody who probably wouldn't lie about that story.
Whoa.
Yeah, no, it's a true story.
Okay.
All right. Are we just spilling tea? Are we just talking shit?
Well, you actually
Let's
have.
talk shit.
There's more shit to talk, actually.
Oh my God.
Coming up because Steve has some intel on the Leafs coaching situation. Also, we need to talk about Matvei Michkov, who we have not talked about. It's Matvei Michkov, isn't it?
Matvei.
Oh, shit. Okay. Well, Michkov. It's a lot of fucking names out there, man. But first, let's get to You Can Bet That, because you can.
You Can Bet That with David Bastel. Brought to you by Sports Interaction. Get in the action and make a play. 19 plus. Please play responsibly.
So, the NHL draft is coming up like we talked about. Now, you can check out...
Bet that. Oh.
You can bet that. sportsinteraction.com/SDPN. Who will be the second overall pick and who will be the third overall pick? So,
I thought about sprinkling on this.
the favorite is Adam Fantilli at 1.14. So if you put $2 down, you will get 28 cents back.
Yeah, Leo Karlsson, though.
So I was going to ask you about Leo Karlsson. Because his odds are at 6.45. 6.5 times your money.
Oh, man. See, what's got me wondering about either the second pick or the third pick is last year. Mm-hmm. That was chaos.
The Shane Wright.
Well, and that was nothing like what it was projected to be.
But we sort of smelled it coming a little bit in the weeks leading up. There was a little question about
like
Shane
the
Wright.
Day leading up. Well, yeah, question with Shane Wright.
Right. There's no question. So we know it's Bedard. But
Yeah.
But the second overall, although
There's a reason you can't bet on that.
You can actually bet on that. You could bet Connor Bedard
actually?
being the second overall pick at 91.
Oh, second overall. No, can I bet on him being first, though?
No.
Oh,
you can't bet on anyone being first because they know.
I wanted 5 cents. Damn. No, because last year, I think it was Corey Pronman with like a day to go before the draft was like, yeah, Slafkovsky 1, Nemec 2, Cooley 3, and Wright 4. And it was so not what the projections were at all. That
Because
I
it
was
had been Shane Wright for 2 years.
Yeah, I was like, yeah, shut up. And then some of the like bigger insiders were like, yeah, I'm hearing that. I think Kevin Weeks said that as well. And I was like, oh, holy shit. It'll be interesting to see how the crowd reacts because they have the first overall pick. Mm-hmm. And bless the crowd in Montreal. They went, okay, no matter who they pick, we're going to cheer. But there was a split second you could tell they were like, holy shit. Yeah! They all thought it was Shane Wright. Shane Wright signed Habs jerseys.
Holy crap.
Some guy has one. Some guy has a Shane Wright Habs jersey.
Wouldn't it be interesting if Shane Wright turns out to be the better overall player than Juraj Slafkovsky?
It certainly would be fascinating.
Ultimate revenge for him.
It was the closest draft I can compare it to, I would say, is 2011. Because 2011, there wasn't really a consensus first overall pick, and there was a lot of confusion in the top 4. I want to say that was the one. No, Sam Bennett slipped to he was a potential number 1, and then he slipped to 4 in 2014. There were a couple drafts like that, 2011 and 2014. Usually it's 1, 2, 3. It's pretty solid. This year it's a mess. So that's why I'm thinking maybe Leo Karlsson.
So Leo Karlsson, if you bet Leo Karlsson over Adam Fantilli, it's 6.5 times your money. But if you bet him to the third overall pick, it's 1.5 times your money, basically. So one thing that is very interesting though is Will Smith, Big Willie style, He is projected to go in the top 5?
You're
Question
gonna
mark.
slap somebody on stage.
Yeah. Don't. I hope Chris
draft.
Rock isn't hosting
Instead
the
of
draft.
accepting his jersey, he's going to go.
So it's interesting with Will Smith's thing because if he doesn't go second overall, third overall, Sports Interaction has him at a 6.46. But it all kind of comes back to Michkov, right? Because if you have him as, I think if things were normal in that situation, I mean, normal by you're playing by the NHL's rules and you're doing exactly what we tell you to do, I think it's not unfair to think that Michkov could be challenging Adam Fantilli for second.
I can't think of a comparable.
And you have more on Michkov later in the show anyway.
Yes, I do.
Don't go into it now, but
the closest I can think of is Cam Fowler.
okay.
I can't remember which year that was, but he was supposed to go third, and he dropped to 12. And that's the sort of talent we're talking about with Michkov. Top 3 talent. No idea where he's going to go.
So, yeah, you can check all of that stuff out at sportsinteraction.com/SDPN. The betting favorites to go third overall, Leo Karlsson at 169, Will Smith at 302, and Michkov at 646. Also, you can bet Adam Fantilli to go third overall. So at an 8.5 times your money.
Oh, man.
That's a tough one. Although it's hard to believe that he would do that. That's
I
ridiculous.
might go $1, Steve.
Would you?
Yeah, maybe.
They have these bets on Sports Interaction where you can do over under like a player's draft position.
I saw that. That's really neat. Yeah.
Nate Danielson, 6'2", right-handed center, big dude. He was 185 pounds, but he's going to grow into it.
He'll get bigger.
You can bet him to be over or under 9.5 in the draft position. I think he's going to be a top 7-ish pick. It's a good value.
This is important. Where's he from?
He played for the Brandon Wheat Kings. He's Red Deer, Alberta.
WHL?
Yeah.
The draft after Vegas wins the cup? Oh, yeah, he's going top 10.
He's going top. So he needs to be top 9 to win that bet. I think guaranteed top 9. Nate Danielson. That's what I'm putting my money on.
That's interesting. I like that one.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of them available. Again, we'll go through them leading up to the draft as well. SportsInteraction.com/SDPN. Coffee Cult, baby. Woo! But we're fired up. We're running on this. And what we love about Coffee Cult is that, first off, all of the beans are ethically sourced, right? This is a big thing. They only work with farms that pay their workers, especially women, fairly and equally. They roast their coffee as what they call roast to order. So when Coffee Cult ships, your coffee has literally just been roasted. It's not been sitting in a warehouse for several months. Okay, you know that it's going to show up in a couple of days, extremely fresh. You definitely want to try their dark roast. There is also the eye cracker, which I love.
I got it right here.
Yeah,
Eye cracker.
caramel, cherry, and tangerine. That's kind of a cool name for coffee, actually. Eye cracker, like wakes you know.
Wakes
That's
you
how
up.
you. That's how you look when you.
Yeah.
This is my smelling salts.
Coffee.
There you go. I like that.
Wave it.
You can order at coffeewithak.com. So it's KOFFEEKULT.com and use the promo code SDPNLOVE. All one word to get 16% off. Coffee orders over $50 will get free shipping in the US as well. Again, it's coffeecultwithak.com. Use the promo code SDPNLOVE and get 16% off, and orders over $50 free shipping in the United States. Specialty grade Arabica coffee beans, roasted to order. It's Coffee Cult. Check it out. So the question this summer after Dubas was let go, other than the core four, but we're de-emphasizing.
Whatever that means.
We're de-emphasizing.
I'll believe it when I see it.
We're de-emphasizing. It's a team.
Yeah. We're a team.
It's a team. So we're de-emphasizing.
They're hiring Pierre Dorian.
Is Sheldon Keefe going to be here or not? And if he is going to be here, what kind of an extension is he going to sign? Because, the Leafs can afford to sign this guy. And if they wanted to fire him mid-season or after the season, they can do that. But, and you can pay him out, or he'll probably just find a job somewhere else because people really like Sheldon Keefe in terms of the league. The league's really interested in this guy. What's the extension look like? And Steve, you're confident in what?
That he's staying. And I don't want to plant my flag in that. The narrative with him seems to have changed recently. There was a lot of tumult and people didn't know what was going on. And I mean, after Dubas gets let go, you, I think, tend to lean on the side of everyone's getting let go, right? But the big insiders, CJ, Friedge. Everyone sure seems to be alluding to Keefe coming back. And then I had a source tell me like it's very, very likely he's being retained.
Do we know how long? Like, is this a guy that they believe in a longer term future in, or is this like a 1-year extension because you got to prove it?
I don't know about 1 year, but short. I'm fairly certain it's short.
Okay. How do you feel about it?
I mean, we sort of last show talked about this team and having a new set of eyes tinker with the Leafs because they're in a position that not a lot of teams firing their GM are in.
Yep.
Like they're not catastrophic. You know, I know you want them to win the cup and everything, but even if they were to take a step backward, they'd probably make the playoffs.
Yep.
I think we can all sit here and look at the core and look at, you know, the holes they have on the roster and go, despite all that, it would be a huge disappointment if they were to make the playoffs. So you're either looking at having Treliving's eyes with that core being a little different, or he could still tinker with the core, but leave the coach there because you could potentially have, you know, his feedback and Shane Doan's feedback and whoever else they bring in, not completely overhaul the way Sheldon Keefe coaches hockey, but just tinker it a little bit. I honestly think the adjustments Keefe needs to make are not rocket science. Like just some of the very small things. You know what? You have home ice advantage. Don't start your fourth line. don't start your fourth line against one of the best lines in the league. You know, how about you do that? I don't think it's rocket science. I think they need to play a.
Do you think he galaxy brained it a little too much? And that happens. You
Yes.
get too close to the painting.
Definitely
See the whole picture.
The blessing of the Toronto Maple Leafs organization over the last few years is they have been willing to try radical stuff. Like remember that using 4 forwards on your power play hasn't been the case for that long. And the Leafs
We're one of the first to try it.
one of the first to try. Well, they were one of the first to try 5 forwards. And the reason they tried that is because it was something Keefe had previously tried on the Marlies. And they had argued about that. And I want to say that was Justin Bourne saying something about that because he used to be the Marlies video coach. And they had screaming matches about that. And it was something that worked. There was something that didn't. And David Kampf in overtime, which you hated, but it ended up working.
One time.
One time.
But hey, one time more than they were winning. They were like 1-6 when that happened, right?
Very true.
In overtime. So they're willing to try new things, and I think that's great, but you don't need to be doing it in the friggin' playoffs necessarily, man. Like, there's a reason. Sometimes there's a reason teams have been doing the same thing for a long time. It's because it's the way to do it. Sometimes.
Well, yeah,
I like creativity.
But yeah, 100%. Jesse, what do you think about that?
I don't know. I was just looking at Sheldon Keefe's coaching record, and he's the winningest coach in Leafs history in terms of points percentage.
It's hard to fire.
It's how do we evaluate that and then compare it to the playoff success, which has been one round victory this past season, and you say, okay, it's been 3.5 seasons, one through a pandemic in that weird Canadian division, and then the awful loss to Columbus, and then 2 really great, the best regular seasons ever in Leafs history. And then you want to give him another shot just to figure it out, like I thought they were going to do with Dubas. It's kind of like this is the Dubas decision that I thought, the Shanahan decision I thought he'd make on Dubas. Then we learned all the backstory about the power and all that.
Yeah.
But I thought just like from an objective perspective, they'd give him one more shot to tinker at it. And with Sheldon Keefe, I thought he deserves another shot to tinker at it. Now that it makes even more sense now that Dubas is out, because now you're going to have the guys that Dubas loved out of that lineup as well.
Yeah.
Now there isn't the automatic Kerfoot play, the automatic, Kerfoot moving to everywhere in the lineup, no matter where they need to fill a hole. Kerfoot's going to fill it.
Need a guy to be mediocre everywhere.
Yeah, he's going to be that.
It. Like I don't think he was ever bad, but he was mediocre.
He was average. And then now there's the no automatic Justin Hall needs to be in the lineup play. Like now that Dubas is out, it makes more sense to see what Keefe can do with a differently constructed group of guys. I'm excited to see it.
Every coach has their guy. I'd love to know who Vegas fans are like, oh, friggin' Cassidy needs to. That's enough.
No, there's Zach Whitecloud shift.
Oh, that's enough with White Cloud. That's enough. No,
I would like to ask Boston fans that, though.
Oh, sure. I'm sure they got guys.
Every
Cassidy.
team's got this.
Now, it's funny because the narrative with Keefe has shifted within the fan base, and like I'm kind of sour on him just because of how the playoffs went. And you mentioned, he hasn't before this year he hasn't been able to get out of the first round. And so I was thinking back to some of the losses, like Columbus. Well, if anyone on that Leafs team gets a mulligan, it's him. Joined that team partway through the season, COVID layout. Okay, fine. Loses Muzzin. Okay, fine. Mm-hmm. Montreal. Remember how high on Sheldon Keefe we were after the Amazon documentary came out?
Well, I loved his speeches and how fiery he was.
And the overtime happens in Game 6, and he curses out the team, including who?
Hyman, Marner, Matthews.
Hyman, Marner, Matthews. Two of those guys are still there. And they outshot Montreal 12-1.
Looked fantastic.
Until Travis Dermott decided to...
I don't like this.
Yeah, I
don't like this.
We're doing too well.
I don't like it. I'm going to spin around my backhand.
I'm going to pretend like I'm the 5-time WCW champion.
No, you got to do the full thing.
Do it.
The 5-time.
There you go.
5-time. 5-time. 5-time.
One more.
5-time WCW champion.
That's Booker T.
I need to see that highlight with the Harlem Heat. Can you dig it, sucker? And then
There it is.
Kasperi Kotkaniemi takes it off him, and 12-1, guess what? It's 12-2. If there was any shooter other than Ilya Mikheyev, he had their two best chances, but he was like, I'm Ilya Mikheyev, and didn't fucking score.
Anyway, so you were saying about Sheldon.
What I'm saying is a lot of players, sweaty
There's
palms.
so much sweat after that round.
Sweaty palms. Can you see it on the screen? No, it's gross.
Thank God, because my hands are always sweaty and I'm all printy.
Steve got a bit fired up doing the Booker T.
I look like a newt. Oh my God. Anyway, a lot of people in the Leafs organization let the fan base down during that series, and I just don't know if Sheldon Keefe was one of them. The Sandine Dermott thing was weird, and I don't think helped. But you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it win a fucking clinching game.
Don't play William Nylander at center for the first time all year in the playoffs. Don't do that. But I think he learned his lesson.
Sheldon.
That was his first year, and he had no training camp and COVID.
Yeah.
Oh, this might be Andreas Jansson's last game. No. If you put him in the lineup, you will definitely make it Andreas Jansson's last game with the team. He's not fucking ready. What are you doing?
And also, what I never understood about that was, did Andreas Janssen have some long, illustrious career with the Leafs? Like, what were they doing? Player the better player, which at the time was Nick Robertson.
So we criticized Vegas for being too ruthless with their players.
Leafs were a little too attacked.
Wow.
And I respect and appreciate it, but it does not yield the result, or did not in this case yield the results that you would have wanted.
And again, though, this goes back to I am fascinated by the summer Treliving's going to have, and I am going to be watching Dubas. I can't help it because it really felt like he was starting to make those adjustments. Like he made the difficult decision to trade Engvall, difficult decision to trade Sandin. Traded guys who had been here a long time. Sandin's going to be a good defenseman in this league.
Yep.
He's going to put up a shitload of points. He's going to make a shitload of money. And, I'm open to trading parts of the core. And they said, get out of here.
So all of that said, I think here's the thing. Sheldon Keefe is, by winning percentage, not games coached, but winning percentage, the winningest coached in Leafs history. He's got the best record. Now, he probably has the best lineup of any Leafs coach ever, incling Pat Burns.
Hap Day did his thing, though.
Hap Day he was on fuego. Yeah. He was. But there was like 8 teams, right? Yeah. 6 teams.
I want one of those like trip hop TikTok mixes of Hap Day. I want that.
Yeah?
Yeah. Like with the big beat and they show his picture a bunch of times flashing on the screen. I want to see that.
Okay.
Hap Day.
Oh,
highlights.
you're talking like fuck it, Hap Day highlights.
Yeah, fuck it. Hap Day highlights.
And it's set to Metro Boomin.
Yeah.
And it's really just
Oh shit!
all highlights.
Is that Babe Die?
Yeah. Oh shit.
Charlie Conacher? Slaps.
I did see fuck it Justin Hall highlights, and it's like him giving the puck away.
Oh,
him,
that's
him
Come on.
throwing it.
Come on.
Him
That was
throwing
the
it
funny
was
one.
genuinely funny.
Yeah.
I wasn't even mad when he did it. I was just
What
like,
year
Yeah, go to the box.
was Hap Day inducted into the Hockey Hall of Fame?
I'm gonna say early 50s.
1942.
You guys overshot it by a little.
Okay, because I don't even know when the Hockey Hall of Fame came into existence. Okay.
61.
Okay.
Wow.
75.
I just said 61. Is
Oh,
what-
I thought you
no,
said that's
no.
When did the Hockey Hall of Fame start?
I don't know, but he got inducted.
Prior to
in 61.
1961.
Was the Hockey Hall of Fame
Adam, do you have any more guesses?
1943.
43.
Wow, in the middle of WW2.
Wow.
Crazy. How did they have time for that? No. We must build the Hall of Fame.
No.
Right
It
now.
was formerly in Kingston,
Oh.
and then we stole it.
Yeah.
Big bad Toronto.
Sorry, Kingston.
Stole it.
Okay.
We stole their whole museum.
So-
Today I learned Toronto is
Hap Day looked like a player, you guys.
He did. Matvei Michkov, guys. Let's
He had
talk
a
about
couple
this.
tucks.
Unless you guys want to continue with Sheldon.
I want
Given
more
the-
Hap Day highlights.
Yeah.
Hey, highlight.
7-time Stanley Cup champion. He had 7. His name appears on the Stanley Cup 7 times. He won a bunch as a player and a couple as a coach and also assistant manager, all with the Toronto Maple Leafs.
By the way, the 1920s hockey power stance, as seen in the article there on Wikipedia, is they all stand that way. Why do they all stand like that? Like, I don't know what to do. Like it wasn't until the 50s they're like, why don't you bend your knees a little?
Yeah. Hey, could you put your feet as close together as possible?
Yeah.
Describe it for everybody listening.
So the antithesis of how you would skate is how they stood. They would stand like almost like a soldier, but like when the division commander's like at ease, and then they and then they kind of relax their shoulders. And they just kind of look at the camera. And it's weird. It's also weird. Always when you look at old-timey hockey photos, look at where they're standing. He is standing on grass in this picture, it looks like. Oftentimes they're standing on like fucking pavement and dirt and shit.
skates.
Yeah, because they would do the training camp, but the training camp would be just a bunch of drills from World War I. And then they'd make them stand outside.
There's that, what is it, Punch Imlach? You must be able to do 10 push-ups in succession. You must be able to.
It's very funny.
So one thing that's really common amongst like really old-timey hockey players is that they all played lacrosse as well.
Yes.
And were like also pro lacrosse players.
Yes.
It seems like Hap Day was pretty damn good at lacrosse.
They've said that Gretzky was a better lacrosse player than he was a hockey player.
Gretzky?
Yes.
I know they said that about John Tavares.
No, they said that about Gretzky too. John Tavares' uncle is like a
is
lacrosse
one of
legend,
the best
but
ever.
They said Gretzky was unbelievable at lacrosse, and also Gretzky didn't grow up wanting to be a hockey player; wanted to be a baseball player. He
was
loved
drafted, wasn't he?
loved baseball. I don't know if he was. I think
he was.
I know that Greg Maddux, I think, was drafted by the LA Kings.
Tom Glavine.
It was Tom Glavine. Is that who it was? But one of those Braves like legendary pitchers. They had those three: John Smoltz, Greg Maddux, Tom Glavine. They were all like,
Do you think
crazy.
back in 1937, everyone took to their newspapers and was like, it's so weird to see Hap Day in a New York Americans jersey after playing his whole career with the Leafs?
Yeah,
'Cause
I've only
he-
seen the man in pictures.
He played for the Leafs all his career, and then his final season, he did one of the old guy things where you go to the other team who looks like they're going to be winning and you play for the New York Americans.
Except the games weren't televised, so it's going to be so difficult to imagine him in a New York
Yeah.
Americans.
But you could probably
while
go to
I'm
the
listening
game.
to the radio the size of the fridge.
When did the radio broadcast start? The 20s?
I don't know, Adam. But I know they talk like this.
Yeah. Hello, Canada, Newfoundland,
Canada.
and the United States. Because Newfoundland wasn't even a part of fucking Canada at that point.
Right.
That's how old those broadcasts are. 1940. So all the pre-1949 broadcasts are like, "Hello, Canada, Newfoundland, and the United States."
This new star is part of a wave of new players from the Ottoman Empire.
It's bizarre.
What was more
Bizarre.
awkward? Jerome McGinley in a Colorado Avalanche jersey or Hap Day in a New York Americans jersey?
Oh, Hap Day and a New
Hap
York
Day.
Americans, for sure. That was cringe.
Yeah.
that he did that. It was really cringe that Hap Day played for the New York Americans.
A bunch of people in fedoras like, bro, for real.
Yo.
No cap, cringe.
No. Someone
Day
just
a
brought
Rizga?
a big sign that said cringe.
It was Hap Day of
Was Hap Day a Rizga?
I don't know. We should ask Koopify.
Okay, we need to tell Justin that I need this TikTok more than I need to breathe.
What the Hap Day?
What?
Just Hap Day, like Riz God,
Tell him.
Metro Boomin, like
Just fucking Hap Day highlight.
fucking
chaos.
Hap Day highlights.
Just chaos is what you need.
I need that.
It's gonna be so like when you see
gonna
the
be terrible.
goalies.
Oh,
When goalies start actually playing goal.
fuck it. George Vezina highlights.
Oh my! Up until like the 40s.
By the way, the answer is
Yeah.
literally Patrick Waugh.
Oh, goalies were horrendous for like 100 years in the NFL.
Well,
You
and,
could argue the 60s.
and you think
Yeah.
about how short a lot of the goalies used to be. Like it's so
tallest dude on the
it's
ice.
so obvious to draft a big person as a goalie. So obvious. And
no.
they're like, but he's fast. He's fast and he's got a nice looking girl. And that means he's confident.
Nice looking gal.
Nice looking gal.
His dame.
Yeah, it's weird. It is weird. All the goalies were fucking short. They're all like, you look at they're crouching down and the fucking crossbars over their head.
Yeah.
Stop crouching.
You
stand as tall
think
as
that somebody would have figured out how to play goal.
Yeah.
Get your face in front of it. What are you, a coward?
I was taking shots 20 years ago. What are you doing?
Did you see my crazy old-timey hockey stat the other day?
On Twitter?
I did.
Yes.
No, I didn't see it.
Well, I'm going to tell you about it. So, Mark Stone scored a hat trick this year in the Stanley Cup deciding game. He was the first player. This is how hard it is to score a hat trick in the Stanley Cup Finals. First player to score a hat trick in a Stanley Cup deciding game since Babe Dye.
We did talk about this in the last show.
No, but he hasn't said his stat.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
Babe Dye.
Since Babe Dye did it.
101 years ago.
It was, I think, 101 years ago, 1921 or 1922. Mark Stone was born 1992. Babe Dye was born 1898. Both of them on May 13th.
Whoa.
So Mark Stone was the first person to do this in over 100 years, and he shares a birthday with the guy who did it before him.
Do you want to hear another cool stat about Mark Stone?
Nope.
Okay.
Cool guy.
No.
hear it.
Arda or Okal for ESPN. Mark Stone, first captain in 95 years to lead a club to its first ever cup as its first ever captain.
Wow.
I thought Marc-Andre Fleury was their first captain, but I guess not.
No. And the first captain was Hap Day
Yeah, it probably was. I don't know who.
of the New York Americans.
Yeah, I don't know who the actual other person was. It would have been good if ESPN
I like
had
your
done that.
stat, Steve.
It was a good
I
stat.
thought it was a good stat. I thought it was pretty good. It's
Matvei
on the it's on
Michkov.
the bottom of Adam's shoe.
We said, oh, hater.
That's why I thought I'd acknowledge it.
No, we do need to keep moving here. Matvei Michkov. I got his name right. Don't worry.
Good job.
So here's the thing. Okay, there has been a million rumors about this guy, and a lot of people are bringing out old stories. And I just thought this old story because I did not know this before. I'm actually grateful for Michkov because I did not know this story.
Okay.
So let's talk about 1990. In 1990, the Soviet Union was splintering. You have a whole bunch of satellite countries that are now allowing players to play hockey outside of the block. A few players had already broken out, like, McGillney, and I think Fetisov and a few of those other players had come over in the 80s. But, the Stastny brothers had to leave their family behind to come and play in North America. Like really tragic, heartbreaking shit. And there is a young player from the soon-to-be Czech Republic. His name is Jaromír Jágr, and everybody's interested. It's a really impressive draft class, and actually, if you go back and you look, the 1990 draft is unbelievable. But there were 5 teams drafting in the first 5 spots. Obviously, Quebec, Vancouver, Detroit, Philadelphia, Pittsburgh.
All good teams.
All of those teams wanted Jaromír Jágr. Do you know why he fell to number 5?
No.
Jaromír Jágr evidently fell to number 5 because when he was in his formative years, was a gigantic Mario Lemieux fan. And
He's not that much.
not that much
Younger.
younger, but Mario would have been in his mid to late 20s at this point, right? Because
Okay.
Mario started in the mid 80s or whatever, and it's
Sure.
1990. So apparently he needed to play with Mario Lemieux. And Pittsburgh with Mario Lemieux was so bad that they could still have the 5th overall pick. Shows you how bad Pittsburgh was for how long.
Yeah.
Wild. And Quebec, Vancouver, Detroit, Philly, they all called his representation. And he said, I won't be coming for a while. I'm not coming. Not coming for a while. Pittsburgh called. They said, draft me. And apparently that's how it happened.
Wow.
Yep. So a lot of people look at that draft, they go, what the fuck were Quebec, Vancouver, Detroit, and Philly thinking? But all of them really legitimate NHLers that went before him. Owen Nolan, Peter Nedved, Keith Primo, and Mike Ricci. Great players.
Yeah.
But Pittsburgh Penguins, Jaromir Jagr, 1,921 points over 1,733 games. Just crazy numbers.
Scott Sissons right after Jagr. Not
I
great.
know. The Leafs drafted Drake Barahowski in that draft. Steve, can you name, there are 3 players with 1,000 points in the 1990 draft. Can you name them?
Well, Jagr.
Yeah.
Did none of the other top 4 guys hit 1,000 points?
None of the others.
Wow. 19.
You have to go all the way to pick 19 and then pick 34, which is in the second round.
1990. Okay. Keith Primo didn't hit 1,000. Oh, he missed a lot of time.
Yeah. He should have. And he was also dead puck era.
Can I have the teams?
Winnipeg and New York.
Are the teams who drafted these guys?
Yes.
Yeah.
Winnipeg in 1990. Rangers or Islanders?
Rangers, sorry.
Winnipeg 1990. Solani?
Keith Tkachuk.
Oh, shit.
Who did the Rangers pick?
Also a former Blue.
Yep. And a few other teams. Coyote as well.
Also,
this person is also a former Blue. Yeah.
No, not a Coyote.
Keith Tkachuk was a Coyote.
Oh, I'm talking about the other guy.
Oh, the other guy. Yeah.
Ranger, Islander, Duck, Blue, Hurricane.
that
Oiler.
doesn't help at all. He
He's an
played for
Oiler.
everyone.
Yep.
He's an Oiler too. Big
Yeah,
Oiler.
Oiler.
Big Oiler. Big Oiler.
Doug Waite.
That's right.
Hey, let's go.
Peter Bondra
Doug Waite was a Duck?
Yeah. No, he was a
Duck
lot.
for one season, played 38 games there.
Oh,
had
he was a Duck.
14 points. Yeah.
Oh.
0708.
Also drafted in that draft, Marty Brodeur, Craig Conroy.
Marty Brodeur, not the first goalie selected.
I know.
That was Trevor Kidd.
That's crazy. The Jaromir Jagr, Marty Brodeur, and Doug Waite are the ones that lasted the longest. Jagr's last season was 17-18. Brodeur, 14-15.
He probably had more points than a bunch of players
Yeah.
drafted.
Yeah, he probably did. He had 47.
Wow. Wow.
So actually, you know what? I'll see how many he had. Let's see. Let's do it by points here.
That's wild.
I know. It's crazy, isn't it? Sometimes the sorting option with HockeyDB is a little annoying. There we go. 47 points.
Maybe
it would put him just behind Toronto draft pick Alexander Godnyuk, who had 49 points.
Oh.
And right ahead of Todd Reardon, Mika Alati.
Todd Reardon, the coach?
Yeah.
Wow. Marty Brodeur had more points than Todd Reardon?
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Not a lot of Chris McAlpine. Also, you remember he was a fighter.
I remember that name.
Yeah, for New Jersey, big fighter.
Yeah.
Felix Potvin was also drafted in that draft. He had 16 points.
Oh, best goalie of the draft.
Anyway, let's move on to Michkov itself, because here's the thing: the Michkov thing has drawn a lot of comparisons with not a lot of information, and I think unfairly. Like I told you the Jaromir Jagr story because it's interesting, and there are people who are like, "Well, maybe he's doing the same thing." You don't fucking know. So what do we know?
Well, so 32 Thoughts speculated that Michkov has a certain team in mind and he can drop as low as number 8 to the Capitals.
And yeah, their speculation is that that's the team.
Yeah. So here's what I know about Michkov, and I had heard some things about him a few months ago, and this was prior to his dad passing. And I think that's very relevant. It's sort of been kind of glossed over in I don't know. It strikes me in a poor way. His father died this year, and blah, blah, blah. Like no, you can't just gloss over that. Like he's a 17-year-old kid basically playing in a men's league, and he's dealing with something very serious, right? Mm-hmm. But what I had heard prior to that is cocky kid. Like not confident, cocky, and, not the greatest teammate, and, his locker room is kind of hot and cold on him, and just all these things that are red flags for a player as a person that you hear. But I kind of laughed to myself when I heard that about Michkov, because I had heard negative reviews about a KHL player before, who was prolific at a young age, playing professional hockey as a teenager, as a 17-year-old. He's cocky, he's immature, all the things that a 17-year-old probably ought to be, by the way. And the last player I heard was cocky and unpopular with his teammates in the KHL before he was drafted was Andrei Vasilevsky.
Oh my God.
So
wow.
Just because you hear
that's not the name I was thinking.
Yeah, just because you hear these things about a player out of the KHL or out of any team doesn't mean it's true. If it is true, doesn't mean it can't change.
Who among, if you're still the same person you were at 17 now,
well,
like what the things that's the thing with maturity is it continues.
Yeah, I've told this story before. Alex Pietrangelo, I remember, was, oh my God, he's so mature. He's so mature. He's just so mature for this draft. He's already a man. He's a full-grown man. And you go, yeah, how come? And they're like, because he lives by himself and he cooks. That's the bar when you're 17, 18. If you can live by yourself and cook, like that is, I don't know. I think that's actually something pretty admirable for a 17, 18-year-old to do. But when you're an adult, like a real one, you're like, that's the bare minimum. You need to live somewhere and also eat. You know what I mean? So this is the grade that this is the curve that we're grading on. So I've heard all the red flags with Michkov.
And also, let's just be honest, since the war started, the information coming in and out of Russia is just different.
It's
just
different.
a lot less.
Poor.
It's unreliable.
Yes. So when are you going to get this guy? I don't know. But there are a few teams in that little cluster of teams that could potentially get Michkov who don't necessarily need him right away. And Kuznetsov was a first-round pick. Didn't come over for a number of years. Comes over, helps you win a cup. Helps you finally get over the Pittsburgh hump. Kirill Kaprizov, fifth-round pick. So a bit of a different situation, but it's very quickly apparent that, this is the best player not in the NHL. And then he joins the Minnesota Wild, and you're willing to hand him $9 million after like 50 games because he's so good, right? So if you're in a position to draft a player who's not necessarily willing to come to your team right away, do it. Do it. You know what? The Quebec Nordiques, here's another example. The Quebec Nordiques had the first overall pick. Eric Lindros was going to go first. Eric Lindros said, do not draft me. I ain't playing there. Quebec Nordiques went, that's nice, and they drafted him anyway. You know why? Because he was Eric Lindros.
And he had value.
And they go to the Flyers, and the Flyers gave them $15 million. Peter Forsberg, Ron Hextall, gave them.
Wasn't like Mike Ricci a part of that?
I think Mike Ricci was part of the deal. Steve Duchesne. I did this trade treat.
It's a crazy one.
They got a wild haul and at least one first round pick. They got a wild haul. So if you're a team like the Arizona Coyotes, for example,
at six,
and he's available, and he's like, well, I'm not going to come over for 3 years. You're like, cool, we're not even going to have a building for that time.
Yep.
And then you have 3 years to rebuild and make your team appealing for him to come over. And if he still doesn't want to come over to the Arizona
trade the
Coyotes,
rights.
You trade the rights for a shitload.
Yeah.
And I tell you what, let's say Washington's the only team he's willing to go to. Draft him and make make them pay you.
Yeah, I could even see the swap coming from like 6 and 8. So Arizona's at 6, Washington's at 8. Go just do the swap now. Take the 8th pick plus whatever Washington is willing to throw in there. You don't want to sit on him for 3 years and trade him then.
Let's say that's exactly what's going on, right? And you're Bill Armstrong in Arizona, and is it Brian McClellan? Todd McClellan? I always get the two confused. No, it's Todd McClellan's the coach. Brian McClellan, I believe, in Washington. You call him up and you say, listen, we have the 6th pick. We know Michkov wants to go there, and we know you want Michkov. We're not stupid. Give us whatever.
Yeah.
Like whatever it happens to be. It doesn't need to be huge, but, we know the Coyotes want nothing but draft picks anyway.
Yeah.
Give us whatever it costs, a couple seconds, and then you get Matvei Michkov. And then maybe he joins you next year. And it's the Jágr situation. And I just think this kid is so ridiculously skilled and easily a top 5, if not top 3, maybe top 2 talent in this draft.
They're saying that
that's not galaxy brain, this guy's. Draft him.
If it's not a Bedard year, there's a chance it's him or Fantilli going number 1.
Which sounds a lot like Eichel.
Yeah.
Right? Like you could argue this is even a stronger draft than the McEichel draft because after Eichel, there was a drop off, right? It was, it's McDavid's going to go number 1. And if he wasn't there, it'd be Eichel. This year, there's like potentially 3 first overall pick talents, which is crazy. And you should probably get on that.
Yeah.
Well, and he's going to join you next year or not.
And this is the thing in 1990 when we bring up the Jaromir Jágr thing, Quebec ended up with a great player in Owen Nolan, but you should have just drafted him. Jágr and then been like, I hear you like Pittsburgh.
Oh, when was the Lindros draft? No, that
was 91. I'm pretty sure. Maybe they learned from it.
So maybe the think
it did win them the cup. That trade won them the cup.
What if the Jágr experience informed the Lindros draft pick and trade, which then created the Colorado Avalanche, who won multiple cups with the assets they got from that deal?
Probably did.
And Drew.
Yeah.
They created Drew Livingstone.
So yeah, Michkov's going to be very, very interesting. And, outside of, whispers here and there, I mean, you can read a bunch of stuff. We don't really know. We just don't know.
So some people are making a big deal about how he not ghosted, but he didn't do a meeting with the Red Wings, who are at 9 right after the Capitals. I'm like, he's not getting to 9.
Also, who's he? It's his representation.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's
I think it's important. I think it's important you say that because not everybody's mind just instantly goes there.
No, and the war that you bring up, I mean, it's highly, highly relevant, and it probably hasn't been this relevant since the draft that you're citing.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
It's been a long time. We're not used to having this exact situation, and I say exact because we talked about Alexander McGillney defecting. Evgeny Malkin had to defect. That dude still plays, right? So Russia's always been a tricky situation to navigate when it comes to the NHL. This year's the hardest it's been in a very long time.
Yeah. And I know the excitement from Red Wings fans on the possibility of getting a great European defenseman. That'd be fun. They have a history of that. But
why? Who?
I don't know, just a couple guys. But he's not reaching 9. And if his representation's let's not waste this kid's time, let's have him focus on other things as they anticipate the draft, that's fine. I don't think that's a big deal. So we talk about Arizona maybe making that deal with Washington. If San Jose wants to do it 2 at 4, it makes a lot of sense. If you want to trade up to 4, Montreal sitting at 5, Montreal getting a piece that can help them now, because I think Montreal's kind of done losing. They're kind of trying to hurry up this rebuild. I don't know. You're going to do another year of trying to suck.
Well, I think they are going to suck for another year because they got to figure out goaltending too, right?
Yeah, but this can be an avenue. If they want to move this 5th pick to get something that'll be more now, or just trade down to 8, maybe get assets with that, and then you move down a little. There's so much movement that could go on because there's so much up in the air with Michkov. So I'm just interested to see how it goes.
Interesting.
There's a lot of possibilities.
He's the biggest wild card in the draft for a long number of years.
I want to take you guys back to a particular date. Can you tell me what was special for you about July 24th, 2021?
July 24th, 2021.
Where were you? What were you doing?
Is that the day? No. I was
When did
going to
the-
say, is that the day the Lightning won the cup?
Yeah, I was about to say, when did the NHL season take place?
I want to say it ended like July 7th.
Yeah, and then there was like the draft and free agency.
24th.
So it would have been like free agency time.
I feel like the draft
Who made a
before
trade?
that.
It was a trade, I'm going to guess.
It was a trade.
Hey!
Can you name who?
Okay. Trade. Can you give us...
Jared McCann.
No, not Jared
Can you
McCann.
give us the conference?
Western.
Both teams?
Yes.
July.
Oh, man. That was Byron phrase for friggin', I don't know, man.
What is it?
Oh! Is this Pacioretty to Vegas?
No.
Damn.
No, it's not a Vegas thing. Colorado trade.
Oh, wait. No, I'm an
No,
idiot.
They don't
Sorry.
have a trade. Minnesota Wild trade?
No. Just name all the teams in the conference. I'm kidding. I'll just give you it.
Okay. It's a bad guessing game.
Well, you can't say it now. I just
No, you went
syllable.
No, you went up.
Yeah, but you know, where I'm going with this. Jesse knows.
What is it?
Oliver Ekman-Larsson and Connor Garland traded to the Vancouver Canucks by the Arizona Coyotes. By the way, how did they figure out?
He said the first word.
Oh, he didn't.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah,
What was the first
it was
word?
on the news.
You know what my like when I get
You didn't go, oh, you went
Steve, you want to see my O face?
Play the game tape.
You want to see my O face?
Ew. That's enough.
OEL.
Don't look at me in the
OEL, Connor Garland, very useful. Traded to the Vancouver Canucks by the Arizona Coyotes. I want to know how they decide which team gets to buy the, like say, oh, the Toronto Maple Leafs traded this person. It was traded by the Leafs. You know what I mean? How do they figure that out? Anyway, Arizona Coyotes receive the number 9 overall pick in the 2021 draft. Ooh. Louis Eriksson's $6 million contract in its last year. Jay Beagle's $3+ million contract in its last year. And Antoine Roussel. Oh, no, he's good at penalty kill in the last year of his deal.
How
Arizona.
did the Canucks buy?
Arizona also received a 2nd-round pick in the 2022 draft and a 7th round this year. The Coyotes did not have a 2021 first overall selection after they forfeited the number 11 pick, so this is their way to get it. And Oliver Ekman-Larsson at this time, July 24th, 2021, had 6 seasons left on an 8-year, $66 million contract signed by John Shaka and the Arizona Coyotes, $8.25 million per year. But because of injuries, he'd gone from what everybody kind of called the hidden gem of the West in terms of defensemen to not that good anymore. And
What do the Vancouver Canucks love more than finding a Swedish player who is underrated and then getting him as soon as their career is done?
well, Louis Eriksson is
Dude.
I think it is Jim Benning of all the terrible decisions Jim Benning has made.
That's the cream of the crop.
It's the cream of the crop.
That's a bad one.
Now, let's talk about what this buyout looks like because there were some interesting details.
Before you get to the buyout, Cap Friendly says it's July 23rd.
NHL.com.
You dick!
24. Sorry.
Is that,
Yeah,
that's
because-
Does that
probably-
make a difference?
That's probably when they wrote the article, but the trade happened the
okay.
23rd. So
Sorry.
that's why Steve and I didn't get it.
Oh,
Yeah, that's why.
Yeah, that's why we didn't get it.
So-
and other thing, the Arizona Coyotes used that pick from Vancouver to select Dylan Genther, who is
Looks
incredible.
good. Yeah.
So I always have a soft spot in my heart for Mr. Genty because he was a part of my streams.
I knew it.
Yeah.
You suck.
Oh, because of your. Oh, okay. And also, Dylan. I think that's funny that Vancouver doesn't have him because they could sure use a guy like Dylan.
Oh my God, the dude's gonna be a star.
Now,
Everybody
interesting
could use-
about this buyout, everybody wants to know the cap hit, and I'll give you that in a second. However, you are allowed to have 3 buyout slots on your roster at any one time. I didn't know there was a limit on this, but there is. I thought you could just buy anybody out. You can't.
We found out at this deadline because they became important, and I think someone ran out of them.
Oh, okay.
I don't remember who. It might have been Arizona.
Now, Arizona, for the next 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years, another present from John Shaka, for the next 8 years, we'll have 1 less buyout spot because when Vancouver chose to buy out Oliver Ekman-Larsson, that contract, because it started in Arizona, takes away 1 of their buyout slots. Now,
no.
they're not going to be buying people out anytime soon.
Arizona.
They're not. They don't sign buyoutable contracts.
Arizona only has OEL on the buyout slot.
It's not a buyout slot. It's contract retention.
Ah, that's
Sorry.
Yes.
Right? No,
So, but that
that's
is important because
though.
that's a part of their game plan.
Yes, because, oh no, they might be forced to compete now instead of just essentially being hockey salary cap money laundering. So now they can only, every other team in the league has 3 slots where they can be the facilitator of a trade and acquire draft picks, which the Coyotes covet very much. Now they only have 2.
Oh.
Until 2031.
I feel like it's not that big of a deal.
It's not that big a deal
their
because
entire game plan.
No, but they weren't using any.
it's bad, but like I'm trying to think of a team that's been prevented from making a move because they were out.
Hasn't
know what I
happened
mean?
yet.
Yeah, but Arizona has 2 remaining, 2 of the 3.
Yeah, it's
Like,
I mean, I think it's, and I mean,
It's less than you want to have. We'll just put it that way.
The
yeah,
irony,
because 2 is less than 3.
the irony is you could
rank
argue this benefits. Well, here's the trade-off: they lose that slot,
Sure.
but there's a cap penalty with the buyout
There is.
to both the Canucks and the Coyotes.
Yes.
and the cap penalty actually helps the Coyotes get to the floor.
All that. Oh my God, you're right.
I know.
Now it's
only a
first
couple
thing I
hundred
thought.
grand, right?
now it's only a couple hundred. So next year it'll be $20,000.
every
And then it
little
goes
bit
to 320 and then 650 for a couple years and then 290 for the last 4 years. The Vancouver cap hit is going to be kind of painful after this season. This season's only 150 grand. That's like a call up at the end of the season. It's no big deal. But then it goes to 2.3 million. And then for 2 years, it's 4.7 million. Now, you're saying, well, the cap's going up during that time. Not for the Canucks, though. And that's the bummer part, right?
And I have seen the argument like, well, it's that or 8.25. And you're right. Like that's
And then it
how-
goes down to 2.1, by the way, for the last 4 years. Just want to get that out.
4 years.
Again, but here's the problem.
That's their Kessel.
There were people, and I think Cam Sherong was chief among them, and saying, like, listen, if you actually watched OEL play, you know that his injuries are so bad you could have LTI'd this.
I saw that too online, and
mean-
I was like,
Obviously not.
I think
it's an interesting perspective because I don't think they're wrong. Like, you're taking a chance on a guy's body, right? So if you're Vancouver, you say, we hang on to this because we think in a year he's going to get injured. And is that the right way to play the game? Like they're playing their chess pieces, right?
Yep.
Is your chess piece that you think his body's going to break down? He's not going to be playing hockey in a year. I don't know.
I mean, health is the biggest wild card in the league. You got a player like OEL who is obviously healthy enough to play, not healthy enough to play well. And then there's Mark Stone, who may never play a full season in the NHL ever again.
Which, yeah, they said he won't be healthy, but he can do it.
Like he might need surgery after surgery, and he comes back for the playoffs, and he's a fucking animal.
which is,
But like the surgery is legitimate. You know, I don't think any of us ever questioned that. It was more a question of, gosh, that sure is convenient for Vegas, but they took advantage of the rules, and his surgery worked, which is another very key factor in all that. My assumption is, unless the Canucks are the stupidest team on the planet, and they might be.
they were for sure.
They were for a long time. Unless they're the dumbest team on the planet, they weren't able to LTIR OEL. Like, this is a multi.
Maybe they didn't want to. And maybe here's
How does that make sense?
well, because the owner might say fuck off. And I would
they're
rather
saving
pay
actual money.
I would rather pay less
19
money.
million.
Figure it out. And he probably looked at the Minnesota Wild and said, well, they're doing it with 14 million on their cap. And the Minnesota Wild, the difference between the Wild and Vancouver, I'm sure Canucks fans already know this, is the Wild are well run. The Vancouver Canucks need to be well run. I mean, this past year was sort of a disaster for them too, behind the scenes.
They went from Chuck Fletcher to Paul Fenton. So they got well run.
They got well
weren't
run.
for a long time.
And agreed. And that's why they're in this position. But they turned it around. Bill Guerin's program, I mean, God, the team was very, very good this year. They're going to lose some good players. Matt Dumba's probably gone. But it's one of those where they have a system, they have players, they can make the playoffs. The Canucks, with an owner who kept betting in there longer than he needed to, right? This is completely ownership's fault. They kept
everything with the Canucks.
They kept the general manager too long. The general manager kept making bad decisions. And in this deal, and I remember having the chat in July in 2021 with you guys going, they were a year away from being out of cap hell with those three players. They were a year away. And people were like, fuck off. They get a useful player. You don't know what you're talking about. I'm like, I don't think that they do.
See, they didn't look at the deal the way we did. And you can tell by the pieces contained in the deal. So if you just look at the players, it's Oliver Ekman-Larsson, who has a bad deal for a long time, but he's one guy. Then there's the three guys who were sent to the Coyotes who have a bad deal, and it's three of them for 1 year, right? So you can look at it as a swap of
salary was even.
Hey, you take this long-term issue, you take the short-term
and
issue.
Connor Garland, who's very very useful.
Oh, and I forgot that he was included in all that. The Canucks bought. And you could say, well, they got Connor Garland out of it. That's a hockey player who makes a salary, which is not a thing that the Arizona Coyotes covet. The Arizona Coyotes do not covet and value hockey players. They don't want hockey players. They don't want to win games.
I'm going to give you
that deal was even worse because they could have just waited a year and all of those deals were done.
Yes.
And then instead, they decided to give up a first and a second and another pick, and
because they thought there was value in OEL.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah, dude. I remember. Sorry, one quick thing. I looked at it and I was like, okay, is this a good contract? No, but they need like someone to like staple to Quinn Hughes and maybe teach him a little bit. They found that dude. It's Luke Shen for less than $1 million.
Yeah.
And OEL was just like borderline failing physicals in training camp by the looks of it.
I also want to give you another date in history. June 22nd, 2019. Can you tell me what Vancouver did June 22nd, 2019? Don't you dare look at it. Don't you dare. Don't you dare.
Was that the draft?
OEL stats.
2019 draft. Oh, I was there. Oh, it was in Vancouver. They drafted Vasily Podkolzin. What else did they do at that draft? I don't remember.
They traded Marek Mazinek, a 2019 third overall pick, and a conditional 2020 first overall pick to the...
You're saying not first overall, first round.
First round pick, excuse me. To the Tampa Bay Lightning for JT Miller.
Oh!
And the conditions were if the Canucks did not make the playoffs in 1920, the 2020 first round pick would transfer to 2021. But if you remember, the Canucks went on a run in the COVID year, in the COVID bubble.
Yes,
so they lost out on the number 20 pick. Now...
What fucking all-star did the Lightning get?
Now,
no, they didn't.
They got JT Miller.
No, the Lightning...
with the pick.
Shakir...
With the Canucks...
Mukhamadullin,
and who was a draft pick of the Devils, because that's isn't that where the Lightning got Blake Coleman from?
I think so.
Fuck off.
Yeah. And this is where, this stuff starts to add up, right? It's not that JT Miller wasn't worth that. At $5.25 million?
He didn't fit their timeline at all.
No.
Well,
and they've been delusional about their timeline for, you said 2019. This is the better part of half a decade. The Canucks have not understood what they are.
OEL didn't fit their timeline when they were making that trade either.
No, he didn't.
He didn't fit anybody's.
They wanted quote unquote veteran presence and useful players and that's just the problem, right? It's not. Now they're going to have to pay the piper. Now they can work around this. It's something that can be done, but it is something worth taking a snapshot of. I remember Dom Lucian tweeting out when JT Miller was traded to Vancouver, and he got a lot of shit for this. LOL, the Canucks think it's time to buy. And
it wasn't.
It's been LOL, the Canucks think it's time to buy ever since.
I don't know why you do this buyout this year. I don't know why you don't just sit on this.
I don't know either.
Why did it have to come this offseason?
I think because they cannot do anything. They went and they got Philip Roenick. They got to get him extended. They want to make some moves this offseason. Their mandate is to make the playoffs.
Jesse, before that buyout, they were over the cap for next year. Over the cap. And that's with an Ethan Bear injury as well. I kind of wonder...
They have, by the way, the Canucks have 38 of 50 contracts signed, and they're still at $77 million.
Wow.
Now, you don't have to do
So they're barely under the cap.
You don't have to use your full cap allotment, but it goes to show how much money was going to so many players that, you know what I'm saying?
They got to use their cap allotment to ice a team that's mid, though.
Well, and they
do.
They still have a guy like Tyler Myers, who they're going to have to eat the last year of that $6
He
million
might get
deal.
bought out too.
Well, it's one more year. Play him in your bottom 6. Who cares? Or your bottom 2.
I mean, is there another team?
I mean, they only have 4 NHL defensemen currently under contract. Travis Dermott's on the IR, but he's not signed. You got Quinn Hughes, Tyler Myers, Philip Roenick, and Guillaume Brisebois. It's not.
The Tyler Myers buyout doesn't make sense.
What is it?
It would be a $6 million cap hit this year. So
What?
yeah.
Also lost in this.
No, 5.3 this year, and then 300,000 next year.
Also lost in this is Tucker Poolman,
Oh.
who has 2 more years left on his deal, but he is an LTIR candidate. We're not sure if he's ever going to play again. But even that deal was bad.
Man.
So, you root for this. You want them to do well. And they found guys like Kuzmenko, who are so much fun, and Pettersson, who's so much fun.
But that was the only move you had. Like the rest
I think you LTIR him if you can get the ownership around on him. I think the reason they didn't LTIR him is Aquilina doesn't want to.
Let's say he can play. Like let's say OEL just had a bad injury plague season. He played 54 games, but he struggled and there was injuries and all that stuff. But next year he's gonna be fine. He's gonna be play 82 games. There aren't other roster moves you can make before that one. Before you have this asset that you traded the sun and the moon for, and you gave up some great picks and some great prospects, and you got dumped all those contracts that you could have just waited a year to expire. And you could have made this move next offseason in a trade if OEL plays well. There aren't other roster moves you could have made to free up cap space. There's no creativity there.
Just because you made a mistake doesn't mean you necessarily have to sit in it, right? Like they decided, well, fuck, we fucked up. We got to make an adjustment here. It's bad. It's bad. But maybe it's the best option. I'm sure they wanted to LTIR him. And by the way, we'll never actually know the full criteria for this player is too hurt to ever play again. This player is not. Like, for example, and we keep going back to this, Mike Smith. Stanley Cup playoffs.
Yeah.
NHL goalie. I can't play anymore.
He's old.
Yeah, Oliver Ekman-Larsson, you got to buy him out. But maybe, like Adam said, maybe it's actually cheaper for them money-wise, not cap-wise, money-wise. Just buy him out. Ooh, it's a terrible.
I think if you don't win that argument against Aquilini, it's a failure of your administration, and I would say that. I wouldn't say that it means the administration's a failure, but I would say that if Jim Rutherford can't win that argument with Francesco Aquilini and say, listen, this guy's got to go in LTIR. If you want me to execute my plan properly, I need this guy in LTIR.
Yeah, but like he has to also want to do that. He has to also not want to play hockey ever again. And I don't think OEL wants that.
Well, yes, actually, that's a very key.
I feel like we're just putting him there, but like he wants to play hockey, so it's
He's
up
not
to him.
old.
No.
Maybe a bit old for an athlete.
Like I said, played half the
old.
season last year, 54 games.
Yeah. Oh, more.
Well, listen, it's
That's a tough situation, man.
It's an interesting one. We'll see how it goes. 8-year contracts, since we're talking about them. Timo Meier wants an 8-year extension. Tom Fitzgerald is the general manager of the New Jersey Devils. Was on the Jeff Merrick show last week, and he said, Timo and I spoke yesterday. I'm very transparent with my players, very upfront, called them personally. This is part of the process, but our goal is to do something quicker. If we can do something, because remember, they filed for arbitration.
And they told Brott, we'll trade you if you don't sign it.
Yeah. He said, if we can do something ASAP, I'm all in, but it gives us more time. And he said, Timo knows we want him. We definitely want him for 8 years, and I know Timo wants to be here for 8 years. So I bet that contract gets done soon when both sides want something.
Well, especially like you got Hughes locked up, you got Brott locked up. They got a lot of. The Devils are going to be what they are for a long time.
Right. And that's great.
Oh, it's great for them.
Yes. The fantastic thing is they have the room to do it. You know, it's not like it's they need to go make all these moves and get a bunch of pieces. No, the Devils have cap space and they can fit Timo Meier in there. It's just about getting him down to a comfy number.
And they got guys coming into Nemec.
Yeah.
Second overall pick.
Oh my God.
I wonder
great.
if they squeeze him in under Hughes again. Like if Fitzgerald's like nobody is making more than Jack Hughes, and that number's at $8 million, which is absolutely crazy for Jack Hughes for who he's going to be, and if he's getting all of these guys under that number.
I would say to them, listen, I understand that Jack Hughes makes that, but that's his first or second contract. This is my third. I don't know. I'm sorry, but $8 million is not enough, and you know it's not.
Give him the GM of the Year award. Second place, because Lou gets it every year.
Right.
But give him the second place award for GM of the Year if Fitzgerald is able to get him under Hughes, because that would be unreal.
I mean, 8 times 8 makes some sense. Also, Hughes had less negotiating rights, even though he's a star. He's an RFA.
But now that he's set that
Meyer's
number,
an RFA too, isn't he?
yeah, he's RFA, but the qualifying is so much.
$10 million, which is way too much.
But now that he's set that number, can he squeeze everybody in under?
Oh boy.
Even if it's 8 times 8, say it's that, would you not just get him 7.9?
Yeah, but you're asking him to leave $800,000.
Yeah.
Leave $800,000 so you can make less than
Then a guy that we've arbitrarily
our team child.
we've arbitrarily set this number.
Yeah. So
If I was Timo Meier, I'd be like, that's nice for Jack Hughes, but our situations are not the same.
Yeah.
You know his next deal is going to be fucking gargantuan.
Yeah.
I was about to say Jack Hughes isn't even their captain. That's Nico Hischier, who makes even less. So maybe they're just a team full of fucking stellar contracts.
I don't. That's how the Lightning built their team.
Yep.
And the New Jersey Devils are trending in one of the best directions in the sport right now.
Get good players, lock them up.
Yeah, lock them up at cheap term, and then they grow into these contracts, and all of a
crazy.
sudden, these are on value contracts.
Now, what if we cheer for Meier to get as much as possible?
Well, I do.
No, because why are we cheering for the team here? We're cheering for the player.
Yeah, why don't we cheer for the $1 billion organization, not the player that's
See how
going to...
fucking stupid that sounds? See how fucking dumb that sounds?
Honestly, the cap does kind of turn you against players that otherwise you wouldn't even have an opinion on.
Yes.
Like, does anyone...
Oh, that's the Devils, though. I don't give a shit.
If we're a cap-free league or a luxury cap league, do we give a shit about Alex Kerfoot making 3.5? People didn't like Alex Kerfoot because he made 3.5.
That was part of it.
People are mad. The reason Mitch Marner trends every time somebody signs an extension is because people are still fucking mad about that contract.
I don't.
cap makes
Yo,
you
if you
mad
were
at the
Mitch Marner,
player.
you would have signed it too, bro. What are you so mad about?
I don't think there was a terribly huge gap between Kerfoot and Engvall, but one made a lot more than the other.
Yeah.
Also, Engvall made a lot of dumb plays, but
Well, so did Kerfoot.
so did Kerfoot.
Yeah, the cap. It sucks because you root for the team, but the cap makes you irrationally upset at players because it hurts your team.
No, it makes you rationally
Yeah.
because you have a rationale for why you want the player to make less.
So be rationally upset at the team that offered the deal.
Yeah.
Who offered them the contract?
How many times have we done this?
I don't know. Anyway, let's moving. Keep moving. So Karel Vejmelka, who's one of the most sought after goalies, I think Friedman was saying that St. Louis, if they decide to make a move, because they're not going to keep that situation the same.
Bennington in Arizona would be crazy.
But Karel Vejmelka had some stuff to say about the Arizona Coyotes on a Czech podcast over the weekend.
Ooh, I had to make 50 saves a fucking game, and I'm sick of it.
So they here's how I had to get this translated from Czech. But here's the Google. But it was just, here's the sort of, they talk a little bit about how he's a Czech goalie for the Czech national team. Coyotes worked with Karel Vejmelka in the national team, and he's talking a little bit about that. And then the popularity of hockey in Arizona is one of the subjects that they touch on. And here's the quote that's making the rounds.
Okay.
I don't think there was a single sold out game this year.
What?
The pricing is stupid. $160 for the cheapest ticket in a university arena. That's what he said.
What?
Dude, I'm telling you, I've said this for years. The European NHL players go home and they don't know how to act. They know
exactly how to act. They just talk.
They give the best interviews as soon as they are allowed to speak in their mother tongue.
Yeah.
Remember Kucherov?
Yeah.
Goes home, talks shit about Killorn. Then they win a couple cups together. But, dude, keep going.
Isn't that a crazy quote?
Keep going.
Yeah. So the podcast is...
that was it?
That's all we got.
Oh, whatever.
That's all
it was
we got.
Good.
And the title of the podcast, I think it's called At the Round Table, but Karel Vejmelka, in Czech, it's called At the Round Table. Russians should not be at the Olympics. And they also talked about how coming out is still taboo in hockey as well.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh. They talked about a whole lot.
A whole lot of stuff. I honestly just wish that, it's called At the Round Table, and it's hosted by somebody named Martin Krinsel and Patrick Fiala. So it's all in Czech, but it's all there. And I thought that was a really interesting... The reason it's interesting is we haven't heard anybody say anything. Except you hear whispers, players telling their agent, can you get me out of here?
It is illegal to say mean things about the Coyotes.
It is. And
I hope he's
and people get on you every time. It's like, oh, like there's people out there like, oh, that's not true. That's not true. It's like, at a certain point, the 20th guy suggesting that they maybe don't want to play like this. Like you work your whole life to play in a university arena? I don't think so, man.
Vejmelka criticizing the attendance of an Arizona Coyote game. Typical Canadian media.
I know.
I'm so
we
sick
get that shit a lot.
of typical Toronto reporters like Karel Vejmelka criticizing the attendance of Coyotes.
And what would he know about it anyway? He doesn't have any firsthand experience.
So sick.
He's never been down to a game at Mullet Arena.
Stop punching down, Karel.
The Tampa Bay Lightning are selling a stake of their team.
One thing on the Coyotes attendance figures, they, according to the NHL records, their attendance was sold out every game. They sold 4,600 seats, and their capacity was at 100% for every game. But just so people don't believe everything the NHL reports, that's just like tickets out the door from the box office. It doesn't mean that's not the butts in seats figures.
There's
a lot of ways to get around that.
I think the guy who was in the arena for all those games might know a thing or two.
Many, many years ago, when the Toronto Marlies gave me an opportunity to cover them, 07, 08, and the Marlies were a tough sell back then. There were times where they announced the attendance on the speaker, and I would turn around to the Marlies guy, the media guy, Trevor Van Otzenberg, and I would just go, Trevor. And he's like, what? That's the number. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, Trevor, I'm looking at it. I can count them. Probably. He now has 2 cup rings, by the way.
When the new regime that now is like in charge of the overall Blue Jays organization came in, one thing they fixed from the mid 2000s, the era where they had like the cartoon Blue Jay tee on the Blue Jays uniform.
Yeah.
One thing that was big throughout that era was counting all of the free tickets they'd give away in this attendance number for the Rogers Center, and that number was always inflated because if you ever attended a Blue Jays game during that era, tickets were like, I don't know, they had Toonie Tuesdays. There were some nights they were literally $2 to sit in the 500,
and it was $2 beers as well until people started fighting.
Yeah, they had to get rid of that.
They lost their liquor license.
But you'd see on like a Thursday, and you'd go down to the Rogers Center, it'd be like 12,000 people if they're lucky. But the announced attendance figures were like 20,000 because they gave away a bunch of tickets and nobody showed up for those free tickets. But now they've clawed that back and they have the actual like through the gates numbers for their attendance figures. And Arizona, they're given not butts and seats numbers. They're given this 4,600 tickets have been given out from the box office.
Worst I've ever seen. There was an Armageddon blizzard for Mississauga Steelheads game. This is when I was the in-arena host. The announced attendance was 700. The announced.
Didn't they just give away the tickets?
No, and then they said, come to the game. Like, it was only like 90 minutes before the game, but they're like, if you come to the game, it's free.
Which they wouldn't even recommend now because it's like you're asking people to drive in a snowstorm.
Yeah.
Like, you shouldn't do that.
If there were 30 people there, I'll eat my pants.
Wow.
Dude, there was no one there.
Well, and it doesn't mean that there's nobody at Coyotes games. And it doesn't mean that there's no Coyotes fans. I shouldn't have to fucking qualify this every time we talk about it. But stop trying to sell me on the fact that it's good. The players don't think it's good. And here's the first one to come out and say it. They just didn't say it in English.
I'll take it a step further. Arizona is a perfectly viable hockey market, and the Coyotes at every turn fuck it up.
There you go. The Lightning are selling a stake of their team for a valuation of $1.4 billion. That is the current record valuation because none of the valuations of the even bigger clubs like the Rangers and Leafs, they have not been made public recently because nobody's been selling a stake.
Jesse, do you got a tenner?
No, I don't carry cash.
Oh, fuck. All right. Well, I guess I'm not buying the Lightning.
So Arctos, is an investor in the Lightning as well as the Minnesota Wild, Pittsburgh Penguins, which would be Fenway Sports Group, and the New Jersey Devils. NHL policy allows for private equity stakes a maximum of 5 different teams. This purchase would push their stake in the Lightning to 20%. I guess they already owned a little bit of it. It required a waiver from the NHL to make happen. Jeff Vinik bought the Lightning in 2010 for $170 million. Wow. So when I tell you their franchise values have gone up 10 times in the last decade, I'm literally being serious.
Wow.
10 times. So
Have the Lightning done well?
private equity stakes at teams are capped at 20%. That's the most you can own as a private equity firm.
Okay.
And also like owning multiple different teams. This happens a lot more than people think. And I guess that's just like, it's like the pension plan when they own the Leafs. It wasn't because they were Leaf fans. They just wanted to make a pile of money. It's like, we like a money cannon. How about we buy that money cannon? That's what they did. And the Lightning have done extraordinarily well to earn that as well. But it's fascinating that right now, the Tampa Bay Lightning, a team that didn't exist 35 years ago, are considered publicly the most valuable franchise in the sport until you go and you do evaluation of some other teams.
The fans are happy. The players are happy. The players win. There's great places to stay around there. And I mean, you've seen
it's a heck of a place. Oh, it's such a fun place to see a game.
Get a good owner.
Currently, the Leafs and Rangers are, Sportico and a lot of these places do. They do sort of like what we think it's worth or whatever. The Leafs and Rangers basically trade spots every year. One year it's the Leafs the most valuable. The other year it's the Rangers. It's the market. It's whatever. It's the history. But they're supposedly up in the 2.2 to 2.5 billion, depending upon who you look at.
So, did you see the report that Michael Jordan is selling his stake in the Charlotte Hornets?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Did you see that it was $3 billion? Mm-hmm. The Charlotte Hornets are worth more than the Rangers or Leafs.
And didn't he buy a stake for $100 million or something?
Yeah, about that, 160 or something like that.
And that's sports rights too. Like the TV rights have gone up through the roof.
Yeah.
So when we earlier in the show, when we do things like praise the NHL for the job they're doing in Vegas, this is why we still hammer the league in comparison to the others.
Because it could be that big.
The Charlotte
there's no
Hornets
reason.
are a bottom 5 NHL or an NBA franchise.
So yes, the NHL has expanded, and yes, valuation is going up, and blah blah blah. You're being lapped by your peers, though. Mm-hmm. Like you were even with the NBA once upon a time. Now they're way, way, way ahead of you, and that needs to be factored in, especially with MLS potentially.
Oh yeah,
passing the NHL.
So David Beckham, I was reading this morning. When he came over to the MLS, he had an option in his contract to start an expansion franchise, and that is capped at $25 million. So when he retired, he could go to the MLS and go, I have an investor group, and our expansion fee is going to be $25 million no matter what. Because he came over and he brought notoriety. You went to the game, and that's when TFC were terrible. And what was the chant?
Oh, you could stick your David Beckham up your ass.
Like that. Yeah. So so later on, David Beckham goes, okay, so the franchise values a few years later are closer to maybe $100 million. Okay. He goes back to the league and he goes, actually, I'll do that for $25 million. Mm-hmm. And he starts Inter Miami.
I didn't know that was his team.
And Inter Miami is the one that and they're a bottom feeder. They just brought Lionel Messi over.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So isn't that, and like, so just by signing Messi, and I know they gave up like some of the Apple rights and some of the, like the Adidas, whatever Messi gear gets sold, whatever, who cares? Think about if David Beckham with Lionel Messi on his roster sold what Jeff Vinik just did, 10%.
Yeah.
I mean, are they worth $1 billion? They must be.
I don't know.
Yeah, like there's a lot of praise being handed down to Gary Bettman for this evaluation of the Lightning, being like, oh, look how many billions for the Lightning. But that should be 3 times what it is if he grew this league correctly over the last 30 years.
Like, the NHL was in a better financial place in the 1980s than the NBA.
It was ahead of basketball. And
into the 90s.
It got lapped triple now. And you look at a bottom-feeding team like the Bobcats, Charlotte Hornets passing the Lightning, who are the last evaluation by Sportico of NHL franchises. The Lightning were 15th, so they're about middle of the pack.
Sports is about comparing yourself against your peers, right? So like if you show up, like if I don't know, Austin Matthews shows up at a random rink on a Wednesday and just starts lighting up everyone in that building, we don't then declare him the best hockey player in the world. It's when he's playing against the other best hockey players in the world. So if we're going to compare leagues here, Yes, the NHL's number is going up, and that's wonderful. The NBA is kicking the shit out of them, and the MLS is starting to do a better job.
Well, the MLS is catching them.
Catching them.
They're not starting to do a better job. They're going to catch them. They
If things keep going this way.
They cannot compete with the MLS's growth.
So, yes, they've done some good things. But, like, they're going to have this huge bloated league just because they're trying to get, all these expansion
I wouldn't call it
fees.
bloated. I'm happy with 35 teams. The population's bigger now.
Yeah.
36 teams.
Yeah.
Like, you're comparing, like, literally, when people in the 1990s said that, Damien Cox was a big one of this. Like, hockey peaked in 93. It had nothing to do with the Leafs going to fucking, going to the Western Conference Final, right, Damien? Nothing to do with that. There's just too many players or too many teams and the players are bad. Bullshit. Absolute fucking bullshit.
I got a really nice message from him my last day.
Did you?
No.
When you look at population growth, per capita growth, absolutely leagues can support that many. Absolutely. I don't mind the NHL doing that. Yeah. I just want them to take this fabulous game that they have and market it properly.
Yes.
That's all I'm asking.
Yes.
Last thing before we go, or do you want to do a press conference, Jeff?
Last thing before we go is...
I sent it to you on text. I wanted to show you the ultimate. If Steve Dangle was a bazillionaire, this is what he would buy. Okay? This is a mansion that's for sale. It's for sale for $50 million. It's in New York. Well, not New York City.
Well, that's like
features a basketball court, a bowling alley, par 3 golf hole, and an indoor golf simulator. And I'm sure that you could fit a hockey arena somewhere in there or outside.
I would freeze the pool. I would freeze the indoor pool.
Because they have an indoor and an outdoor pool. There's also a sports bar, a wine cellar, coffered ceilings for anybody that is in design and cares. Absolutely stunning. And I just thought, there's Steve Dangle, the billionaire's place to live.
Who owns this? The Great Gatsby? What the who lives here?
Apparently there's a lot of mansions like that in like upstate New York.
But
like real crazy money.
Do you leave your mansion?
I don't think I would. Like, why would you? You'd be like, do I
Because you're
leave?
a human being? Because it's weird to stay in one place?
Because life is always better at your mansion than anywhere else, right?
Yeah, why would
you go?
Well, so I've been told, Adam.
I would think. I don't know.
So my rich friend Adam tells me. My billionaire yacht having
Did you get
friend.
the McLaren up to the living room?
The McLaren is not in the living room yet.
Oh,
it's not in the living room yet. We're still weighing options.
Okay.
But anyway, I just wanted to show you the $50 million sports mansion. They're expecting the owner to be
just outside of Oshawa.
Just outside Oshawa. In fact, there's still some land there. You could do that yourself.
There is actually one cartoonishly huge house in Oshawa, and I have no idea who lives there.
Let's look up the address. I love doing that.
No.
Whose house is
leave
that
them
shit?
alone.
Let's go.
Leave them alone.
I don't want to. I want to know if it was on Realtor at some point, and then I can look at there. And then I can look at the pictures and go click, 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 click.
I'm gonna go there for Halloween.
Yeah,
I'm gonna be like, do you do full size chocolate bars?
I like that. There were those houses.
houses.
Yo, the houses that drove me nuts were the people that dropped the fucking Coke can or whatever in your like. It was like, oh, this is too heavy. Don't give me pop.
Frig off.
Yeah.
Yeah. No. And hey, as a huge lover of chips, don't give me fucking chips.
Oh, the Humpty Dumpty chips.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Thank you for the 2.5 chips in this fucking bag.
Listen, man, I worked at a drugstore. I can guarantee you they're several years old.
Yeah.
Guarantee.
You guys are doing a lot of complaining about free food and candy.
Yeah, Halloween.
What the hell's wrong with you?
No,
I never complained about it.
I have elite tastes.
But like, you're taking up space in my trash bag. There was one golden Halloween year. I don't remember how old I was, but it was the only year I ever filled an entire trash bag, brought it home, and went back out. I ate that food till the summer.
And the whole way you complain.
No.
He's like, oh, these guys gave me Reese and I like Kit Kat more.
But it is how I hurt my back.
Steve.
I
want the specific candy that I like.
Okay. It couldn't all be you.
Don't give me Ruffles. I like Doritos.
Fantastic forelimbs and just stand in one spot and reach all the different houses on the streets because you're 8 foot, 9 foot, 10 foot.
Do you know what I did this year?
It wasn't that great.
I left a bowl out. And I was like, left a note like, please take one because I couldn't be.
Why would you do that?
Because I wasn't home.
That's the worst idea.
And on the doorbell cam, first kid.
Yeah. Whoever gets there first gets the bowl.
First kid. The first kid
that's the
took it.
rule. You get there first, you get the whole bowl.
Oh, man.
You never been 10? Like, what's wrong with you guys?
I was the kind of 10-year-old who would have just taken a cup.
Yeah. You would have taken one?
I would not have taken the whole bowl.
I would have been nauseous with guilt.
Yeah,
couldn't have done
me
it.
too. I honestly like.
Remember, Jesse, for the first number of years of my life, I was convinced I would go to hell for that sort of thing.
Same.
Yeah.
So
you both went to Catholic school.
Yeah,
But I was also 10, and 10-year-olds don't have feelings.
No, I had fear. I was a scared 10-year-old.
The church got to you.
Yeah. I still, I think God's a little more chill than that now. But back then, I was like, if I take this coffee crisp, I'm going to burn for eternity.
All right, let's wrap it up, Jess. It's a fun time. It was a fun time.
I was waiting for the presser.
Well,
I'm going to ride a kayak tomorrow.
I know we're doing
yeah,
the
we are
virtual
doing
5K. Yeah, we got to figure out how we're going to do that. Are you ready? Kayak's been in my truck for several days now. People are asking me if I'm starting a new life.
I'm going to run in hockey equipment.
The Steve Dangle Podcast.
Powered by Sports Interaction. Want to bet?
Follow the guys on Twitter at Steve_Dangle, at Adam WYLDE, and at Jesse Blake. Connection complete.